does he do? Well, his children are practicing their numbers for school. So he says to his little children, would you like to practice some numbers? They say, yes, Daddy, we would love to. So he gives them the spear utilization report. What should we write in there, Daddy? Write any numbers your heart desires. So the children fill out the spear utilization report. They give it to the boss hunter. The next day, he turns it into the spearman. He gets spears. The spearman sends it down to the spear utilization committee, the suck people, and they analyze it. And they start to make decisions based on this information provided by the hunter's children. This is what starts to go on in organizations. Parts of the organization that were established to help people, in an attempt to help them, hinder them, or are perceived as hindering them. What do? They provide them sometimes with inaccurate information. They provide them sometimes with inadequate information, upon which decisions are then made, and the hunters, or the organizational equivalent of the hunters, blame the Campfire people. The Campfire people blame the hunters. We're only making this decision based upon what we tell you you want. Well, we didn't tell you what we wanted. Well, we have this information here. So you have this conflict that occurs between hunters and between Campfire people. The important thing to remember is Campfire people were established to assist hunters. Hunters are established to bring back the animals. So long as we're bringing back animals, we're doing well. When we stop bringing back the animals, we have to start to look at the organization. This is part of the message that you have to think about. If you look at modern-day organizations, what's occurred is we have tremendous campfires that have been established, tremendous areas of specialties. Sometimes it's not so easy to tell the hunters from the Campfire people in modern-day organizations. I was fortunate enough, or unfortunate enough, at one time in my career to work in the shipyard. And in a shipyard, you know who the hunters are. The hunters look like hunters, they talk like hunters, and they smell like hunters. In many organizations, this does not occur. Hunters and Campfire people are not that easy to distinguish. One of the jobs of an organization is to determine, for us, what is the equivalent of the animals? For us, who are the hunters? Once you do that, you can start to figure out, how do the Campfire people help the hunters? I heard a guy one time from Mary Kay Industries talking. And one of the things he said, which I found interesting, he said, whenever we do anything, we always ask, how will it affect the salespeople in the field? What he was saying was, they are the hunters. They've identified the animals. And everything we do should make it easier to do their job. If it's not making it easier for the hunters to do their job, then we don't want to do it. So they've identified Campfire from hunter. And it's an important distinction that has to be made. One of the things that starts to happen as these organizations grow larger and larger is that hunters fail to understand Campfire people, and Campfire people fail to understand hunters. They fail to be aware of the needs of the hunters. One of the reasons this happens is because initially, in order to sit by the campfire, you have to have been an old hunter. Generally, old, broken-down hunters get to sit by the campfire. That's their reward. They don't have to go out on the hunt anymore. And the benefit of that is that old hunters remember what it was like out on the hunt. Now, they may think that the new hunters are never as good as the old hunters, but they remember what it was like. When they sit around and talk, they talk about the days on the hunt. Remember what it was like. Remember when we were doing this. Remember the time we were out in the hunt and Joe got drunk. And they live in those old glory days. They can talk the language of the hunters. They respect the hunters. But as organizations grow, you'll find that the people that sit by the campfire, some of them were never hunters, some of them have never seen a hunter, and some of them have no idea what hunters are. They wouldn't know the animals if you paraded them in. They'd wonder, what are they? this gets to be a problem. Our society is developing more and more of these specialists. Kids now go to school and they don't learn how to be hunters. They learn how to be campfire people. They have something that's called an MBA. MBAs don't know how to catch animals. They know how to tell other people how to catch animals. They know how to count the animals better. They know a lot of things, but they don't know, they've never caught an animal. Who teaches them about the campfire? An old hunter? No. Many times who teaches them about the campfire is not an old hunter, but someone who not only isn't an old hunter, but has never even sat by a campfire. His claim to fame, he wrote a book about how to sit around the campfire. And in the program or the seminar or the course that they attend, that book is what serves as the body of knowledge. And when these kids graduate or get out of school, they think they know all about hunting. They think they know about how to run an organization. My daughter graduated from college. She had a degree in something called business logistics. And she always liked to joke to me and say, "You don't know what that is, do you, Dad?" And I knew one thing. I didn't know what it was, but I knew it had nothing to do with hunting. What it had to do was, how do you transport the animals? How do you transport the hunters? That kind of thing. Had nothing to do with identifying animals and catching the animals. She thought she knew everything. She went to work for an organization. She was there 2 days. She came home and told me, "The guy that owns the organization is stupid." I said, "Well, pay attention to him, will you? Because he's a millionaire about 18 times over. Maybe you can learn something from this guy." Thank God she did. But at the moment, she thought she knew everything. It's a problem that we have with young people. It's a problem that we also have with people that have sat around the campfire too long. The longer you sit around the campfire, the more you forget what it was like on the hunt. The more you forget that there are hunters out there. Your job becomes one of making the campfire a better place to sit around. That's not the purpose of the campfire. The purpose of the campfire is to assist the hunters. As organizations develop once again, and people lose sight of what the mission or the function of each job is, these people start to develop a dislike for each other. The hunters dislike the campfire people dislike the hunters. And rather than getting closer together, what they start to do is they separate philosophically, they also separate physically. They start to develop things like, you have a headquarters campfire. Headquarters campfires start to develop into what they call regional campfires. A regional campfire means now the hunters do not have to come into headquarters anymore. They merely bring the animals to the region. What this does is it isolates the headquarters people more and more. Some of them, once again, have never seen a hunter in their entire career. My brother worked at the shipyard also. He was a Boilermaker. And later in his career, he got to go to Washington. Now, Washington is the world's largest campfire. Whenever I go down there, I often try to think, what do these people do? There are hundreds of thousands of them, building after building, and what do? They don't make anything, they don't count anything. What they do is they issue orders to hunters. Well, my brother was an old hunter, and he went down there, and he told me one night, he said, it's amazing the concept that these people have of a hunter, of someone who's actually done the job. He said, people come around, he's part of the tour. They come around and they say, that guy is an old hunter. And if you talk to him, you'll find that he can speak some words with a little encouragement. He can actually form complete sentences and things like that. They think the hunters are stupid. They think the hunters can't think. And what do the hunters think about the campfire people? They think they're stupid. They think they can't think. If they could think, what the hell would they do the things they do for? You talk to the campfire people, they'll tell you, we do it to make it easier for the hunters. You talk to the hunters, and they laugh. And they say, you know what we do with the information they give us? We throw it in the trash can. We don't pay any attention to it at all. There hasn't been anything come out of Washington or headquarters in the last 18 years that's been worth anything. So long as you think that, and you're a hunter, you will never benefit from anything that headquarters does. If you're naive enough to think we sit by the campfire, all we have to do is issue some kind of a policy, and the hunters go and do it, you're living in a make-believe world. You've got to start to talk to the hunters. The hunters have to start to talk to the campfire people. There has to be some level of communication that occurs. It becomes necessary that you talk about and identify what we sometimes call the organization mission. In identifying the organization mission, you're getting a little close to starting to talk about what are the animals for this organization. Once you identify the animals, you can start to think about who's a hunter. How does a hunter accomplish his or her job? Who's a campfire person? How do they help the hunters? What kind of information do they provide that's useful to the hunters, that the hunters can actually take it and do their job better? If you're a hunter, do you listen? What starts to happen is many times the campfire people have some sophisticated equipment. One of the things they can do is they can look and say, there are no animals in that part of the jungle anymore. You have hunted that part of the jungle out. But if the hunters don't listen, if they say, we've always hunted in this part of the jungle, they go back day after day, they don't bring any animals back. The organization fails to exist. People can't eat. If the hunters are told, we have more sophisticated ways of killing animals. We have more sophisticated ways of trapping animals. But the hunters say, hey, I've hit animals over the head with a baseball bat for 100 years, and I'm going to continue to do it. They fail to take advantage of the expertise that's available by the campfire. They fail to do it because there's this psychological, philosophical, physical distance that gets built up. It's necessary that people sit down and talk with each other. Now, it gets a little closer to home. So far, one of the things I've been talking about, it would seem as if the campfire and the hunt are kind of physically removed. I teach supervisory training programs. And one of the programs that I do, I ask the question of first-line supervisors. I say, is top management support, lack of top management support rather, responsible for a great deal of your problems? 70% of the supervisors that answer that question say yes. They perceive top management as being the cause of a lot of their problems. That's a stinging indictment. We're not talking now about one part of the organization, one part of the country, and a part of the organization down in Washington. We're talking now about people in the same organization perceiving top management as getting in the way of doing the job. Top management has to make it clear to the people, what are the animals? What are the priority animals? Which animals are we trying to catch and which animals are we no longer trying to catch? People have to understand what's going on. Once they understand what's going on, they don't have a great problem going out and performing the job. But until they start to understand what's going on, they have a great deal of difficulty. It means that top management has to talk to the people. It means the people have to listen to top management. My message today, be you campfire person, be you hunter, be you top management, be you first line management, somewhere in between. Start to communicate. Start to talk about the things that are important. Don't assume that people know what's important. Don't assume they know what the animals are. Don't assume they know the purpose of the campfire. Tell them the purpose. Tell them what the animals are. Talk about it. Encourage them.